All right. Thank you for joining us today for our webinar. This is our webinar entitled Reach Service Cloud Nirvana in 5 Steps. We're going to go through a number of things, but the first thing I want to do is make sure you know who these wonderful voices are and glorious faces. My name is Howard Yermish. I'm our Director of Customer Success here at Internet Creations, and I have our product manager here with me. Joe, please introduce yourself.
Hey guys, I'm Joe.
Okay, that was an extended introduction, so we will move right along. I am finding my inner peace, but in order for you to find your inner peace, I want to make sure that we take care of some housekeeping first. And the first thing that we're going to do is I want to know that you can all use this questions panel. So in the GoToWebinar control panel, you should see a little side thing that says questions. When you type your questions in there, they will show up on my screen over here on the side, and we'll be addressing these questions throughout. I want you to ask your questions throughout this whole time. We're going to have some pauses to make sure we catch up on those. But in order to make sure I know that this works, I want to ask you all a question, and I know you don't have to phrase this in a question. Just tell me, where are you? So if you could put your the city and state that you're in, or the country and cities, we'll acknowledge some of the people that are here. So please put those in there. Joe and I are here in our Hamilton, New Jersey headquarters. Internet Creations largely is here in New Jersey, but we also have an office in Dallas, Texas as well. And it's really important, and I'm seeing some names come in there. So we've got Rochester Hills, Michigan. Welcome, Rochester Hills. New York City, but you live in Morristown, New Jersey. Great, thank you. Salt Lake City, Utah, which is in the immortal words of the Book of Mormon, Salt Lake City. So that's a great city. I can't wait to go there with my camera soon. Also Knoxville, Tennessee, Menlo Park, California. I have a lot of memories of Menlo Park. My sister lived there for about a decade, so I've been to that place a lot. Detroit, as well as a few others here. So that's great, and I really appreciate everyone chiming in, and we'll just keep on going. It's always nice to see different people chime in with different places that they're at. So we are going to actually show a few things that are unreleased products today. So we have to do our version of the Salesforce Safe Harbor slide. So you might see some features and functionality that is not yet available. So we want to make sure that you understand that you should not make any purchase decisions based on anything that you see here if it's not already released. And if you do ask us when it's going to be released and the timetable for that, we probably won't give it to you because we don't know until we're just about ready for release. And if we tell you, it's because we do know. So moving right along, let's get started. We're going to go over a little agenda items today, and something, and this question always comes in. We do record these webinars, so anyone who registered to attend will get a link as a follow-up to this to make sure that you get a copy of the recording. So do make sure that you look out for that. Also, any links that we share are going to be in that notes as well. We're going to make sure to share those as well. There's a lot of links today, so you may see some. Agenda today, pretty straightforward, but it's actually might be a little confusing at first. The first thing we're going to talk about is gathering feedback. We want to make sure that that's part of your process, both at the beginning, at the end. We're creating sort of a circle of life that is part of reaching Nirvana, is understanding it is a constant process. Then we're going to look at our first step. Second, we're going to look at our first step, which is processing messages as they come into Salesforce. Then we're going to take our second step, which is understanding how to prioritize your work, what things you need to do there. We'll then look at things regarding the productivity and personalization, so how your agents respond in the most efficient way, but also in the most human way. Those things we're going to talk about. We'll look at how you meet customer expectations and measure results through different ways we can report and key performance indicators there. And then we're going to circle back in to gathering feedback again, making sure that it isn't just a one-time, let's figure out what's broken, let's fix it, and then pretend like it's all perfect from there on out. It will be a constant state of innovation. So without much further ado, we're going to kick this off. So first off is the last step, or the first step, or the part of just a point on this circle, and that is making sure that you are capturing feedback in the moment, not later on. So this is one of those things where we want to make sure that you're leveraging Salesforce automation so that when you have one of these particular times. Let's call it, hey, if we're gonna close a case, we wanna send a survey. If we're gonna finish a sales opportunity, maybe we send a survey out, a couple weeks afterwards or a couple days afterwards to make sure that they had a good process. Maybe if you're doing any kind of project work, maybe at a unique milestone, maybe halfway through and then at the completion, you wanna send surveys. You could also do that for things like warranty service or return merchandise is another great place. Or if you have a business organization that does field service where someone comes to an office, a location of business, or someone's house, you want to make sure that you're using surveys in that moment. And that's really all part of this whole effort to capture the voice of the customer and then use that to really improve your products, your people, your processes. So the reason I wanted to start with, call it the last step first, is really so that you can recognize I need to measure my current state and then move towards an ideal state. And without data, I don't know what right things I should do. So by capturing that data, making it part of your ongoing process, you can make really smart business decisions. So think about that as a whole sort of first step in the process. So the next thing that I want to do is move to step one. And we're going to get a little bit more technical here. But in this first step, you have to make sure all of the information gets into Salesforce so that your support team, your service agents can really grasp this. So Joe, we have a feature, it's called Auto Create New Contacts. Can you talk about how that feature works?
Sure. So the way it works is anytime an email is processed by Email to Case Premium, we're going to check the from line of the email to see, does the sender exist as a contact in Salesforce today? If they do not, we will go ahead and create a contact for them, and that will be associated with the case. So as you can see here, there was a case that came in at 10:19 a.m. on May 8th, and a contact was subsequently created at the same time, and it is denoted that it was automatically created by Email to Case Premium.
And that's great. Now, and that's something sometimes a customer will say to us like, well, what happens if that contact's created but not necessarily associated with the right account? How do we know, like, what do we do to make sure that that gets organized properly?
Sure, so we'll check the domain on the from address to see if that matches the website field on an existing account. If it does, great, we'll match the new contact to that account. If it doesn't, we'll temporarily place the contact in a bucket account, and then it can be reassigned later from there.
Got it. Now, one of the things that I was thinking about is, let's say, for example, like we ease the agent's pain, we get that contact created for them so they can start working the case and serving the customer. But then you could create just a really simple report to have someone sort of clean up these contacts, maybe fill in extra information or double check things, but not put it on the shoulders of your service team who just may not have the time to fill out all this contact information. So that's pretty great. Now, this second feature that I'm a total fan of is it's actually one of my, I'll call it, maybe it's my favorite feature of Email to Case Premium. I don't know if it's my absolute favorite, but it's definitely like top 4 features of Email to Case Premium. And that's forward to case. So when you forward an email into Email to Case Premium and create a new case, Joe, walk me through this process. What actually happens?
Sure, so here's a great example, Howard. So let's say I'm an account executive and I have a group of customers, and one of my customers reaches out to me with a technical problem they were having. Now, I, as the account executive, know that I might not be the best person to handle their technical issue, so I want to go ahead and get that information over to our support department. I will go ahead and forward the email that the customer sent me to our support address, and that's going to create a case in Salesforce. When that case is created, it's going to be created under the customer's name, the original sender, not myself, who was the one who actually forwarded the email in to create the case.
Got it. So it sounds like if you had that, like just thinking about your support experience, account executive gets the angry customer, hey, you need to fix this thing. And instead of trying to figure out and get it into Salesforce, they just forward it in. So they're super duper hands off. Now, when that case gets created, what happens? Are the automatic notifications going to the right people? What's happening there with that?
Sure. So what we do first is we'll set the contact with the right name. So in this example here, I was the one who forwarded the email in, but Daniel Good had reached out to me, so he's going to become the contact. And then once we set the contact, our auto response rules just say to send to the contact, so we naturally just send the auto response email right to Daniel Good.
Got it. So if we see over here, like where my little mouse is sort of floating, we've got, hey, this issue was sent to Joe. it forwarded to product support, and then product support sent the autoresponder to Dan. That's pretty awesome. It's one of the reasons why it's like my absolute, top 4 favorite features of email to case premium. Again, that's something where we've heard from customers so often we would be on a product implementation review with people and they wouldn't have this turned on and they would complain about this very issue, and we would get to that, what is it that I always say in that instance? Have I got a checkbox for you? It's really, really easy to configure. And hitting our blog probably within the next couple of days is a whole blog post all about forward to case that Joe and I worked on and put out there that has deeper explanation as well as our just general documentation. So definitely check that out. Another feature, this one, this isn't in my top 4, but I think it might be 6th overall, and that's time close until new case creation. Joe, walk us through how this works.
Sure. So this feature is one of my favorites, Howard, and what it's meant to do is, let's say you have a case that you had opened with, or that a customer had opened with you, and you went ahead and closed it out after a few communications, after maybe let's say 2 to 3 days. About a month later, that customer has a new issue, and instead of opening up a brand new ticket, they go ahead and dig through their email inbox, find that old email where they corresponded with you, and write their response there with their new issue. So what we can do with email to case premium is we can decide after a certain amount of time, do we want that new email to be treated as a new case, or do we want it appended to the existing case?
So is this the kind of thing, like, let's say your average case was like 3 days, like time from the customer opening it till the time that you're resolved. You might want to do this setting as like 2 or 3 times that. So if you had like a 3-day case, maybe set it for 2 weeks for the next case.
Yep, I believe we use around either 2 to 3 weeks for our time. So.
Yeah, and our typical cases are between 3 to 5 days because of the back and forth. But let's say if your regular cases are typically closed within 2 days, you might only want to set this for a week or for 5 days, depending on what your metrics are.
Yep, exactly. It will differ by the type of business and how quick or how long your cases are generally open for.
Got it. So the 4th feature in this processing inbound message is another one where I don't want to say it's one of my favorite features. I just wish this never happened, but it does happen, and we do hear this complaint from customers, and that's when email loops happen. So imagine that like a case response goes out. Thank you for creating the new case. And that hits my vacation message, which I forgot to turn off. So that replies to Salesforce and says, I'm currently on vacation from last week until yesterday. And then Salesforce says, thank you for creating that new case. And then my vacation says, I'm on vacation from last week until yesterday, so on and so forth. So talk to me about what we're doing to protect against these email loops.
Sure. So what we're doing is every time a new email is processed by email to case premium, we're checking to see, was there a case created within the amount of time specified here, so like 5 minutes? Was there another case created within 5 minutes of the case that's currently being created that has the same subject and is from the same person? And if that second case does have the same subject and is from the same person within 5 minutes, we'll mark the subject line of that second case and any following cases with email loop protection. So from there, what we recommend doing is updating any of your auto response rules, workflow rules, process builder processes, any of those things that are sending outbound emails to customers, to not send those outbound emails if the subject line of the case contains email loop protection.
That's great. And that's something where, we've heard of situations where they have to like physically turn off email to make loops in Salesforce stop. So I'm glad that we have that built into this product for email to case premium. Now, I know we have an article about fuzzy text matching. Joe, do you want to give a little like, what are we doing for fuzzy text matching?
Sure. So the fuzzy text matching piece of it is allowing customers to control how strong, like how strict you want email loop protection to work. So maybe you only care if, maybe you want the subject to be a perfect match on both cases, or on other types of cases, you want the subjects to be close matches. So things like that you can build into fuzzy text matching.
Is that the kind of thing where you may do it such that, like, let's say a customer reports 2 issues at once, that it's like, oh, well, they're going to send in 2 email messages, maybe one after another, and we don't want that to become an email loop because it wouldn't necessarily happen, but we don't want the subject to be like, case number 1 is my widget is broken, and case number 2 is, and my second widget also is malfunctioning. We don't want that to have that email loop protection.
Correct. If the subject lines are different enough, email loop protection will not catch that.
That's awesome. All right, so One of the things that I want to do before we move to our second step of the process is to kind of give you some customer experience tips. So if you're working with your support team, it's so important that your support team is great for your customers. So you want to really focus on humanizing the experience. Well, in order to do that, your support agents need to know what's happening behind the scenes. Now, I've seen with some of our customers where the support team, they're never told, hey, this is what's happening in Salesforce when you're not working on it. This is how cases get automatically routed to a team, or this is what follow-ups are being set, or this is what happens when you use this status, and this is what happens when you change the owner. They might not know all of those pieces, so you might not want to give them a technical overview. Hey, we're using Process Builder to do X, Y, and Z when it hits this status, but you may want to explain to them, look, when you follow up with a customer, if you want to remind them, hey, we haven't heard from you in a little bit, you can put it in a status that we're going to automatically close the case if there's no response. We have a pending closure status. Well, if your agents don't know about that, they might do extra work to try to be really awesome for the customer that you've automated and made it really easy for them. So this is just a way to really focus on letting them be the humans in the process, but teaching them what the machines are doing behind the scenes. All right, so moving right along, we're going to get into our second step. And that's really all about prioritization of cases. And I always kind of look at it as like, you've got this mass number of cases, maybe in different statuses with different responses. And the question of what do I work on next? Am I working on, maybe new cases or responding or following up, things like that?
Yeah, so Howard, in this situation, which flag or which case would you work on first?
So what you're seeing with these flags is a product of ours called case flags, and that's allowing you to kind of understand that process. So right now, these red flags, those are the kind of the worst offenders. And what I recommend, and this is really leveraging case flags, is knocking out the ones that need the most attention. So like typically, if you were to look at a list view to say, show me my oldest cases in the new status, and you kind of work your way down chronologically, that's different than knowing, oh, you know what, this particular case has a red flag. I should probably get to this first than this case here, because this has got a little bit more urgency. It's been aging longer. The customer's still waiting for a response. So you can really work through this. And this view that I'm showing you here, there's nothing really special about that other than you would have a list view in Salesforce, and this is using the Lightning experience. Switch that list view sorted by flags, switch it over to the Kanban view or Kanban view, depending on which part of the country you're from. And then you can see your flags grouped by different statuses. So now, like, you could look at this and say, oh, I've got some red flags here, so I'm going to play whack-a-mole with these first two cases, and then maybe say, you know what, I'm going to grab this case, then this case, knock out these two orange flags, and then work through my blue flags. This way, I don't have any customers getting angry because cases have gotten older or have aged past than what's expected. Moving right along, another thing that you can do with case flags, and this is something that Joe and I talked about in a webinar for case flags back in, I think it was January, February timeframe, something that you can go play the recording. I recommend it because we teach you how to make lights flash in your office using case flags. It's a whole lot of fun. But you can make the timings of those flags be based on something other than the default timings. So let's say you have a default timing that is, it's initially going to turn blue with a little chat bubble, then it's going to turn orange, say after 4 hours, red after 8 hours, and then maybe a black flag or a skull or something after 16 hours, something that says this is how long we have to take. You could do different timings, and whether you use Process Builder or workflow rules to say, look, if it's a platinum SLA customer, I'm going to make these flags age faster so that instead of it being, 4 hours till the first flag, I'm going to make it 2 hours till the first flag. Or instead of do it by priority. If it's high priority, we're going to go like it's 1 hour until the second flag. So you could do things like that.
So Howard, in this example here, for the super important customer under the account specific timing section, how are the flags going to work there? Let's say one of those customer under that account opens a new case. What does that look like?
So this is actually a really great way that you can, like, if you've got that VIP customer that you're like, look, we always need to prioritize those cases. What I've done in this case is I've set 0 hours on both the first and second flags. So when the case first comes in, it's going to skip the blue flag and start at that second orange flag. So just visually, it jumps higher in priority, even though the case might only be 1 minute old. By working off of the flags, you're able to kind of keep things organized and get to that customer before that flag goes red. So that's a nice way to kind of, don't tell your agents like, hey, you need to find all the platinum customers first, but make sure you pay attention to super important customer as well. Just let them work off the flags, and all of these things can happen in the back end so they know which ones to get. So the next thing that I want to kind of switch over to in terms of prioritization of cases, like we've got 2 products that we're going to show off here. I've talked a little bit about case flags, and we're going to show you a new Lightning component that we have for case flags. That's this little component over here with a timer that runs and stuff like that. But what's super important is that you don't work on duplicate cases. So we're also going to give a quick overview demo of our other product, Case Merge Premium, showing you how to like knock those down. So I'm going to switch over here to our demo org, and I'm going to do a little quick update, make sure we're all fresh and tasty here.
Uh-oh, we have some orange flags.
All right, we have orange flags. So, let's just, just from this list view, and again, that little there's only 2 here, so the Kanban view is not as exciting. But if I were to look at it here, I'd go, oh, I've got 2 flags. Let's grab these 2. Let me just jump this back to a little table view just for fun. I'm just going to grab this one. Got it. So what am I seeing here?
Got a duplicate indicator there.
All right, so I could say, you know what, there's probably a duplicate. Let's grab that duplicate. So I'll click view the duplicate. I'm going to jump over here, and I'm going to see, here's our 2 duplicate cases down here. I'm going to select both of these, and this is going to take me to the process to merge our cases. Now, when I go to this merge, it's automatically showing me, here's my description, here's these different things. It's going to default to show me the oldest case as my master. So I'm going to let that happen. And I'm going to say, merge all of the attachments and files and events and comments and all that stuff. And we'll do our little merge-a-rooney here. And yes, I want to merge this.
Go ahead.
So we're going to merge this up. And now when I come back to this case, I'm seeing our case flags indicator. It's letting me know that there's 11 hours remaining total in that SLA, and there's 3 hours until the next flag. And I can even open this up and look and see, hey, there is a response there, an agent warning here. The next flag is a manager notification and an SLA breach with our little custom bomb icon that we've got down there. All right, so that's talking about our prioritization of the cases here. So the next tip that I have before we get into working the cases is really all about my pet peeve. So here's what happens. I call up customer service, I'm on the phone, and I finally get to a support agent, and they say, hi, I'm Dan from XYZ Widget Company. Can I put you on hold for a few minutes while I review your case? And I'm thinking to myself, I've just been on hold for 15 minutes, and now you're putting me on hold again to review the case. It's kind of annoying. So what I actually recommend that support teams do is it's a little bit of a tip from like active listening, but it's also you're reflecting what's going on in the case and expressing that to the customer. So rather than just saying, let me put you on hold and look at the notes, say, hey, would it be okay if I reviewed the notes on the case with you on this call? And then you go through and read out the notes. Hey, it looks like 2 days ago, you opened up this case and you gave us some information. It looks like we asked you to get a screenshot. We got that screenshot for you. I'm taking a look at that now. And just go through that history. You're gonna give your customers a lot of confidence that the agent knows what they're doing, as opposed to the agent getting back on the phone and saying, okay, Mr. Yermish, what's going on today? And then you go, well, I don't know what you know, because you put me on hold and I have no idea if you looked at one thing, at 5 things, maybe you merged some cases. I have to retell you the whole story. Let the agent tell the story back to the customer. It really puts them at ease. It's a great way of kind of easing the pain for that customer. So the next thing that I want to talk about is that consistency and personalization of responses. This is a feature actually, part of Email to Case Premium is Case Presentation Layer. And I'm going to jump back over here to the demo. And Joe, walk me through what's happening in this demo.
Sure, so you have Case Presentation Layer here, so you get a full view of all of your case comments, as well as any updates to the owner and status on the case. So we can go ahead and you have things like filters for public and private comments. If you want to view any draft comments, if there are any existing, status and ownership changes. You can also search through existing comments if you're trying to find a key word that you may have mentioned or the customer may have mentioned during the process of working a case. And we can also see things like you have the option to view the HTML version of an email in correspondence with each case comment that was added.
Got it. I should actually search for something that's in the content. There we go. So there's the comment that's got the word error in it. But from here, so like let's say I found that and I go preview the email.
Yep.
Great. That's showing me these comments here.
Yeah.
I've got some HTML little social icons going on in there. That's great. In traditional Salesforce, without this product, you would have to go individually open up all the email messages, right? You'd have to look at the related lists. Here are all the messages. Try to sort all that out.
Exactly.
Awesome. All right, so that's sort of the first part. Go through that. That's that screen that we were just looking at. You could talk the customer through that and make sure that they're set. So I want to make sure that we keep moving with this. The second piece of this puzzle is really looking at. Hang on a second. We got a question that may have just absolutely applied here. Oh no, got it. Never mind. This is a reminder that if you did miss some of this. We are recording it. We'll be sending that recording to people as a follow-up to this event. All right, so let's think about 3 things here. And these are features that are also part of email to case premium and the case presentation layer, as well as the enhanced comment editor where we can do HTML. The first thing is consistency. So we have a feature that's called canned comments. That allows you to just say, hey, I don't want to type the same message over and over again. So I'm going to automatically just let you insert that into the comment, into the case, send it off to your customers. Great. The next thing is going to be around pasting screenshots, adding images in that enhanced comment editor, and making sure that you're typing whatever messages that you want specifically. The third thing, and draft comments, Joe, is that your number one feature?
When it came out, it was definitely my number one feature.
I love this. This is a great way that if someone's working on a case and you need to go get some more information, you don't have to retype your comment. It's just going to save a draft as you go. So let's jump back over here to our org and kind of look at this in process.
And you don't accidentally close out of your comment that you might have written. You may have written 3 paragraphs and then you
absolutely
lose it.
So if you're a browser tab fiend and you've got anywhere from 3 browser tabs to say 57 browser tabs, that you could close the wrong browser tab that's got your in progress comment open and you'll keep that draft.
Exactly.
So let's take a look at this process.
Sure.
So we're going to make a public comment.
Exactly. So now from here, we would just go to the canned comment, type the search piece here, and then we would look for the canned comment we wanted to send, which in this case, the customer is reporting an issue with their widget failing to load. So we're going to go ahead and send them the canned comment that applies for that, because this is an issue we've seen over and over again, and we know generally what the fix is.
Yeah, and instead of using an email template, the customer can go here and totally customize this. So we could say, thanks for reaching out to our awesome team. And we can even make that nice and bold and italics. And if you're really fun, you can, go nuts here. So there's our awesome team.
Yep.
So what happens, let's say we didn't we wanted to have another step that we put in here.
Go ahead and just type right in.
You may want to try this.
I do this all the time where I get a canned comment, it's 90% there, but I want to kind of put my own twist on it. So I go ahead and make a few edits, and then you're good to go, you're golden.
Got it. So let's say we wanted to capture a little screenshot. So we're going to do a little capture here.
Sure.
I'm going to grab a little section.
And just so everybody knows, we are using Snagit as the screenshot tool here, but you can use other screenshot tools as well.
So then I'm just going to copy it, right?
Yep.
And then I'm going to jump back over here and give myself some space. Control V, just paste it in. Boom. Pasting the screenshot straight in. This was a huge win. This is something where when we first brought out the enhanced comment editor, we weren't quite ready to do this, but we are now. It's an absolutely great feature. I actually just gave a thumbs up to our lead developer, Steve, as he walked by, because when they delivered that, we all kind of applauded. But it's a super duper awesome feature. We hope that you're using it. If you're not, make sure you're on the latest version of Email to Case Premium to get that feature. All right, so I'm not going to send it. I'm just going to click cancel.
Okay.
So that now when I go back to this, comment here, I'm seeing here's my draft comment that's got my image here. It's It's kind of all ready to go. Now, when it's a draft comment, that means those responses in progress, we actually can show them as the full HTML.
Exactly. Yep.
But case comments are plain text. So once it becomes a real comment and not a draft, then the formatting goes away here, and you need to use the preview in order to see what that message was.
Exactly.
Got it. Great. So that's
one other interesting thing about draft comments too is, let's say you're somebody who drafted up a comment and you're not sure if everything makes sense and you want somebody else's opinion. If that person has access to the case, they can just go to case presentation layer on the case from their side and view the draft comment. In fact, sometimes they can make tweaks right to the draft comment from there.
So for example, if you had written this draft, I could come over here, and as long as the sharing rules were there, I could click edit draft.
Exactly.
Finish it up, maybe change this to, call it like super awesome team, because that's what it is.
Yep.
Send this off, and now when I send it off, I can then like update the status, and I'll say like with customer, we'll make the case reason like equipment design, and we'll just click our little save send to action here. And so yeah, then when we come back, remember that we were using case flags, and it's gonna then, and this has to just get a little refresher-rooney to get that updated. And again, this case flags component, we're still QAing it. It's not out to the public yet, but that flag is gonna get cleared. If we look over here in the detail view, you can see we've cleared the flag. We're just waiting for Lightning to update on this. Apologies for the slight demo fail. Again, unreleased features, do not make your purchase decisions based on today's status. We will get that, but that will then clear this flag out pretty straightforward. I'll just click a little clear flag, and it'll be confused because it's already cleared. You get the idea. All right, so moving back along here, we've looked at these three features. So now what I actually want to talk about is those two steps, 2 and 3. We are looping. In order to be responsive, we're going back and forth. And a couple things happen when you go back and forth with customers and personalize. You get things like a new issue into the case. So what I want to do in terms of working the case, we're going to start with this demo. What we're going to do is a little side-by-side drag and drop splitty action with our product case split. So let's jump back over to our demo org and do it.
If you refresh the case here, there might be a new comment. Let's give that a try.
All right, well, let's do a little refresher-rooney. I'm stealing your words, Joe. I apologize.
It's okay, I get over it.
Got it. So there's the new issue. We've got, there's a preview of the login error. We could look at the whole email message. Got it. You notice that the flag's been reset now because the customer responded. So we've got some new timings going on. Pretty great. So now we want to take this, hey, I'm facing a new issue. I have some trouble logging in. Let's see the attachments. So let's split this case. So now what we can do is we can say, all right, you know what, this old case, I might want to close it, so I could actually close it here from case split. And the new case, I'm going to update this. This description isn't right. So I'm going to jump over here, and I'm going to copy this, and it automatically copies that text to the clipboard. Jump over here, paste it in. There's our new thing. Now I'm going to change the subject to say trouble logging. Whoa, I can spell like the best of them. And update this. Maybe I want to drag this attachment over to here. Now, one of the things to notice, that attachment had an email associated, so we had this login error. So here's some little case flags magic that's going to happen. I'm going to drag this comment over to here, and with it, we're going to include the related email.
File we got to grab.
And the file we got to grab. And that one's going to come over there. Now, once we're done, we can take this. It's ready to go. We can say split. We'll do the actual split. Let's hope magic works. Magic is happening. Here is the new case. We've got a little internal comment saying, hey, this is where it came from. That's where it split. Here's this.
We got a flag.
And we got a flag. It's all ready to go. So we're sitting here ready to go, new case, and we can work it from here. Now, if I were to go back to, let's say I go back to the original case at this point where the other one was split from, and let's just do a little refresh just to make sure everything's happy. I've got a whole bunch of attachments. So let's manage these. Let's see what's going on. All right, so Joe, what's going on here with this hit list?
Sure, so what's happening here is we're surfacing all the files that have been added on the case, either to the case directly or via an email. So if we scroll down here, we see that there's some relevant attachments, but some that are not. The Twitter icon and Facebook icon, those were included as part of Dan's email signature when he emailed in to support, but they're not really relevant to working the case. So with Signature Slayer, we want to allow customers to kind of just go ahead and get rid of those. And then once they get rid of those, if they enter the system again, we're going to delete them automatically.
Got it. So those images were added to the hit list. Now, are we like, okay, we've slayed them here. What if I find those images on other cases? So for example, like if I jump back over to this case and I give it a little refresh, it's going to now, clean that up. So if I were to look at, let's close up our history here. But if I were to look at our related images,
yep, so
those attachments are gone. Exactly. That's great. Now, what happens? Like, let's say we had a ton of cases from Dan and I just slayed those images now. Do we do anything like for the past?
Yes, now we do. So now we will go back through any historic cases that those images were also found on and get rid of them there as well, which is going to clean up those cases and save on some file storage.
So that's pretty great. So things like logos, social icons, that kind of stuff,
yep.
So that your agents are really only looking at the files that are the errors, the screenshots, the stuff that you really want them to look at. That's pretty awesome. So let's jump back over here. So we've looked at splitting cases and then removing those extra attachments. Before we jump into step 4, we have a couple of questions and I want to make sure that we address this. One of the questions is, can a draft go into an approval workflow? So that's a good question.
I haven't tried that. It probably can, just because it's just a regular object in Salesforce, it's a custom object. We haven't really played with that too much, but I'd have to look into that, to be honest.
Yeah, so we'll definitely have to look into that. I can tell you it's not intended for that purpose. What I'd probably want to do is have something where that draft comment, like maybe it's good for a manager to review. It's really there just as a holding place, and so other people can tell that you're also working on the case. So like if Joe's working on the case, he might have a draft that he started. I can see that that draft has been created. That kind of gives me a sense, oh, he's working this case. That's great. He's like, let's say as a manager, I look at the case and Joe's working on it, but I see it still flagged. So I might go, why is this case red? Well, he's about to send the draft. I can tell he's working it. I can like cool my jets. Another question. So for example, I think this is a follow-up. If a new hire had to submit their drafts for approval before replying to a customer. So that's an interesting use case, something that we'll look into. So that's definitely, we'll follow up on that if that's, if it's feasible. Next question. So does the hit list delete the images or just remove them from the cases?
It will delete the images from the cases. It stores one record for every image. That way we can reference that image when any new instances of that image come in, as well as when we were deleting any of those images on historic cases. So we do save one record basically for every image that you've added to your official hit list.
Got it. So, and the follow-up question is, can the images be restored if they weren't offenders, in case the images have the same name or something like that?
Sure. So we put any images that we're slaying into the recycle bin. So if you accidentally slayed something and you didn't want to, what you can do is you can remove that image from your hit list, and then from there, go into your recycle bin and restore the image.
I think the thing that's important is we're not matching off of the file name. So you could have, like Salesforce is always naming things image 01. So we're definitely not going after that. Mm-hmm. We're actually doing an exact image match, a hash of that image. So you might have different Facebook icons that are slightly different. We're not matching those. We'd love to, and we're still looking into ways that we can do some artificial intelligence with that, but you'll be able to knock down those icons. So any of the exact matches, those are the ones that are going to get slayed. There will always be one of them stored.
Exactly.
All right. So switching gears, and thank you for those questions. That's pretty great. I hope those answers are good, but we are going to follow up on any questions that we get in here to make sure that we resolve those. Step 4 really is about meeting expectations and measuring results for your customers. So again, we're kind of back to case flags. Joe, talk to me about the case flags report extension.
Sure. So with case flags, we offer all of our customers a free report extension package. It includes 8 additional reports as well as a dashboard. It captures some additional metrics that aren't necessarily captured in the main reporting we offer. Some of those reporting metrics are average response time, different flag escalations, as well as how long a case spends in a particular status. And one important thing for the report extension is that the case flags history tracking settings must be enabled. This is what allows for case flags to track information between responses back and forth between agent and the customer.
Got it. So that's something where sometimes someone will say to us, hey, I didn't have history tracking on for the first like 3 months of using the product. Can I turn it on now and then get that old data?
So it won't backtrack and give you information on the old cases. But what we recommend doing is turning it on and probably leaving it on for about a month or so, and then revisiting the reports after that, because you'll get some data after a little bit of time.
Yeah, because like if you turn it on and then look at the report, like let's say you
blank.
turn it on today and you look at the report tomorrow, you'll see a little bit of data, but it'll make you kind of think something bizarre because like today's a weird day or today's a normal day. You don't know that until you've seen like a week or a month's worth of data.
Yeah, I would say definitely give it a few weeks to kind of collect some data there.
Awesome. So talk to me about this specific report, the average time to respond.
Sure. So this report is giving an overview of how long it's taking each of our agents to respond. A couple of interesting things this report can help you understand. Number one is agent workload. If you notice that agents are taking longer to respond than others, it might just be that they've been given too many cases to work on at once, and they simply are just running out of time to respond on cases. So it kind of gives you an overview of maybe those agents that might have more cases than others. Another thing that this can help you understand is certain trends. So we can see here that on the bottom of the graph, Paul Parker and Todd Daniels, their lines are relatively flat. They're close to zero. They're responding to customers really fast. But one thing I could tell you about those two folks is that they are taking most of their support issues over the phone, and they will open a case and close it within the same minute usually. So while the other agents are more so responding via email to customers. So that's why those two folks, their response time is so low compared to others.
Got it. So the next report, it's all about when you pass certain flags and case flags. Talk to me about this one.
Sure. So this report here is showing the number of times that a flag has escalated to a level 4, which is usually the black flag. So we can see from this chart here that Rebecca Smith is our worst offender. She's had 56 instances of black flags. One interesting thing about that number is that it's 56 times the flag has gone black, not necessarily how many cases have been worked where it's gone black. So it might be there's one time on 56 cases where it went black, or it could be 20 cases, approximately 3 times it went black. So digging into this report a little further will kind of give you some more of that information.
That's great. And that's something where, you know, when I think about like, how do you manage to these reports,
yeah,
you can see someone that's like, hey, you're just always on top of your flags. It might take you longer to close cases overall, but at least the customers are feeling responded to. That's like very different than one person who might just like, they just let things expire because they don't really care. So you can kind of learn a lot from that.
I would want to learn more about what William Rubino is actually doing that's keeping his numbers so low compared to others.
Got it. And the last thing, this is percentage of time for each status. Talk to me about how this report can be effective.
Sure. So this report here is showing how long cases have been in any particular status. So we can see from this report here that 36% of the time we are seeing cases in the working in development status. So that might give us an indication that maybe we need to create some additional statuses to really track what does working in development actually mean. Does it mean that the agent's working on it and investigating? Does it mean that another team member is working on it? How all that fits in.
Got it. And you know, this is something where, let's say you have a particular status that's with customers, or excuse me, this working in development status. If you like refer cases to another team, you might say, you know what, I want to make this status like more granular. So maybe instead of it just being working in development, you have internal statuses like waiting for a development team, or waiting for a purchasing team, or waiting for a return merchandise team, so that your support agents don't feel like penalized, for lack of a better term, for not working their cases when realistically there's nothing more that they can do. So that's a reason to say we need another status and maybe have some automation in that status too.
Yep. One other thing about this, Howard, is that if you do see your cases spending a lot of time working with the agent, you might want to build in some follow-up processes as well into your communication plan. So if 75% of the time it's always waiting on you to respond because you're doing a lot of the investigation, you want to make sure that you're continuously following up with your customers, providing them with status updates, things like that.
Great. So this gets us to our next tip, and that's really taking the metrics that you can learn and aligning your habits to the metrics that you capture. So imagine that you say to your agents, we want you to have great time to close metrics. So you care about the overall life cycle of the case. Well, if someone is only cared about saying, look, I don't want the case to be open for more than 3 days, well, they're not going to be really incentivized to get to the root issue of a case. They might only do the surface issues, figuring it'll be someone else's problem down the road. So they may do very light troubleshooting. What you want to do is actually figure out what's the metric that lets the agent say, hey, if I do this, I'm actually doing the thing that creates the best customer experience. So I think about like every metric, your support agents, your employees, they're going to figure out how to make it look good for them. So if that metric is initial response, they might look at like, I'm always going to respond to new cases, but once the case is in working in development, I don't have to be responsive anymore because we're only measuring initial response as opposed to responsiveness. That's actually one of the things I love about case flags is you can get to responsiveness. So moving right along, we're getting back to step 5, and this is kind of completing the circle, and we want to show you a couple things here. The first thing that I want to show you is this is kind of the old like leaderboard, slacker board for survey scores. So this is something where maybe you put this in public, maybe you put it on TV screens around the office, however you want to surface it, that's great. One of the things that we've been asked over the years, we have a knowledge article about it, is all about bringing those results by accounts. So someone would say to us, hey, I want to see our NPS score or our CSAT scores for this important account. And if you're a customer that has lots of cases from single accounts because you serve like a lot of big accounts, this is super impactful. Coming soon to a simple survey near you is a component that you can use in Lightning that shows you this sort of trend in terms of the scores, when these scores are coming in, the actual NPS calculation score compared to the average score. So if you're using NPS, you know that NPS is not an average score. A lot of people like looking at the average, but the actual NPS is a certain number that gets calculated. We figure that in, as well as if you're using CSAT for stars, or if you're using thumbs up, thumbs down, we give you some data on that. The second thing that I want to show you, and I'm actually going to make this little video play here, is Simple Survey in its new version that will be coming out soon. And again, we don't have a date for that, is we have some new themes. These themes are mobile optimized so that when the person is taking the survey on their phone, they're going to see that, hey, this isn't just a long page where I've got to zoom in and zoom out and stuff like that. It's just going to show them, hey, here's my text field. I can go to the next question. I've got big tap targets. So in this case, I can pick, hey, I got the Migas Royal Plate and the Space Cowboy Tacos, move on to the next question, and then say, yup, I went to Taco Deli. In this case, you know, the survey questions are a little bit out of order, but that's because we're playing with stuff here. When you're done, you submit the survey, and we keep track of that. Again, these are things where you're going to see these features coming into Simple Survey probably within the next month and a half. We're really excited to talk to our customers and launch those features, but pretty great stuff that we're going to see very soon. So my last customer experience tip for the afternoon is all about short surveys. Nobody really has a time for long surveys. So I just got my car serviced about a week and a half ago, and they sent me the link, please take our customer satisfaction survey, and I clicked it. And the first page of it was like 23 questions or so with different matrices. And I looked at it and I went, this is horrible. I've done them in the past and I know that it's 5 pages of it. So I just said, no way, I'm not even bothering it. Like if you've heard the phrase KISS, keep it simple, we want you to keep surveys simple, whatever word you put in there. So definitely keep the survey simple. You learn a lot more from a short survey than you can from people not responding to your long surveys. So at this point, I'm gonna just go over to the questions panel. If you haven't asked any questions at this point or you've been holding it to the end, this is a great time to do it. We do have a quick question. Let's see here. Will the slides be available to review after the webinar is closed? The answer is the recording will be available. So the specific slides in PDF we probably won't share, but the recording itself, you'll be able to go through and scroll through and get to that. We may make it available. That's something that on this one you might find that valuable. So we could probably accommodate because we do that stuff here. Next question here is about time closed until new case creation. I saw that a max time of 4 weeks. Is that customizable to longer?
Not right now.
Not right now.
Yeah.
That is something that we've thought about doing. I'm always thinking about like what's the best sort of reasonable defaults. To me, like if you ask me my gut feeling, I feel like 4 weeks is about the right time, but I could definitely see a case for like adding an option for, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, something like that. Realistically, we'll get there. Next question. Has E2CP been updated to Lightning UX? Great question. I can't wait till I can say absolutely yes. Case presentation layer that we demoed today has definitely been updated to the Lightning user experience. That Lightning design system actually works in both Classic and Lightning, so there's no real issue there. You can do it as a Visualforce page. You can also do it as a Lightning component. We do have both of those. The new comment page in the setup experience is actively in development. I can't wait until we get to do the release webinar for the new version of Email to Case Premium. That has been over a year-long heroic effort. For those of you that remember last December when we introduced the enhanced comment editor, we literally took 0 breaths and started on this giant move from Email to Case Premium in Classic to the Lightning version. The actual reason we did the enhanced comment editor first was because we knew that people needed that and wanted it and just needed to have it. So we decided, get that done, get that out the door, work with that, and then start the whole UI change. I'm thrilled with the progress that we're making. I get to look at some of the stuff. It's not ready for anybody else publicly to see. As soon as I can show it to people, you will get an invite from me with a demo. So we're really looking forward to that. Next, creating drafts automatically if someone clicks cancel. How do you actually cancel? I think that what the question is referring to is like, hey, when I create a draft and it says, I don't want to create this, we're saving that draft. You would have to, in the enhanced comment editor, delete it out to not have anything saved.
Correct.
But in case presentation layer, you can actually delete your draft. So if you see that draft there and you don't want it, there's a little menu option that allows you to delete that draft.
Yep, exactly.
So that's pretty great. What I'm going to do now, if you still have questions, I want to let people go because we're running close to the end of the time. We're going to hang around, so if you have more questions, keep asking. But what I want to do, for those of you that are headed out to Dreamforce this year, please come join us. We're doing a thing on September 26th. I believe that's the Wednesday of Dreamforce. I can't remember because it's right now, it's towards the end of the week and at the end of a webinar. This could be on a Sunday for all I know, but I believe it's a Wednesday. Joe just gave me the thumbs up for that. Wednesday, September 26th from 9:30 to 12:30 in our space over it's like a stone's throw from Moscone. We're doing the Service Excellence Forum. We're going to do a deep dive into how companies are thinking about responding to customer demands, future tech, and how that impacts your service practices. It's a collection of roundtable discussions. We're going to have one table that's all about tools to increase agent empowerment, another table for cross-functional customer experiences, another table that focuses on the KPIs that can really enhance your overall success with service delivery, and then another table specifically for the rise of smart tech and service organizations. We have 4 other companies that are coming and bringing their table captains to this, so we encourage you to go to that link, the ic.force.com/service excellence forum, or SEF. And with that, I want to say thank you for joining us. I really appreciate everyone taking the time today, helping us reach Service Cloud Nirvana in our 5 steps, but it's really a loop. So don't forget to keep going with the questions, but just as a little sign off, namaste. Namaste, Joe.
Namaste. Thank you, everybody.